The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold representatives from 40 different species. Light filtered through crystalline walls, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Taman stood at the human podium, a small platform that seemed almost forgotten in the corner of the room. His dark suit looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the alien delegates around him. He cleared his throat and began speaking. His voice carried through the translation devices that every species wore. The United Earth Government requests that all vessels avoid Sector 7, 7 Alpha. This region of space is extremely dangerous. We have marked it as a permanent quarantine zone. Quote, laughter rippled through the chamber. It came from the Draxian section, where Commander Velcris sat with his military advisors. Velcris was a large creature, his scales shimmering blue and silver under the light. He stood up, his massive frame making Taman look small. The humans speak of danger, Velcris said, his voice booming. These people, who barely left their own moon a few centuries ago. These people, who have no colonies beyond their single star system, and yet they dare to tell us, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds, where we can and cannot go. More laughter followed. Taman remained calm, his hands folded in front of him. He had expected this reaction. We are not claiming authority, Taman replied quietly. We are offering a warning. Something exists in that sector that destroyed our ships 200 years ago. We lost good people learning about this danger. We are trying to prevent others from making the same mistake. A delegate from the Corvan species spoke up, her voice dripping with condescension. And what could possibly threaten a modern fleet? Your technology from 200 years ago was primitive, even by your current standards. Perhaps your ships simply malfunctioned. Taman pulled up a holographic display. It showed sensor readings, mathematical models, and incident reports spanning 2 centuries. We have studied this phenomenon for generations. We have lost 7 research vessels attempting to understand it. The pattern is clear and consistent. Any ship equipped with faster-than-light drives that enters this zone will cease to exist. There is no explosion, no wreckage, just absence. Velcris laughed again. Convenient. A ghost story, to keep us away from whatever resources you are hoarding. Did you think we would fall for such an obvious lie? Taman closed his eyes for a moment, composing himself. We have nothing to gain from lying. The sector contains no planets, no resources, no strategic value. It is empty space with a phenomenon we do not understand. We are simply asking you to trust our experience. Trust? Velcris strode forward, his boots heavy on the floor. Why would we trust a species that has contributed nothing to the galactic community? You have no advanced technology to share, no territories to offer, no military strength to speak of. You are children playing at being equals. The other delegates murmured in agreement. Taman could see it in their faces and body language. Even across different species, they viewed humanity as insignificant, annoying insects trying to buzz around giants. We are placing official warning beacons around the sector, Taman continued, keeping his voice steady. They will broadcast on all standard frequencies. Please, for the safety of your people, do not ignore them. Velcris turned to address the full council. I propose we conduct a military survey of this sector. We will prove that the humans are either mistaken or deliberately misleading us. My fleet is prepared to depart within 3 rotations. The vote passed quickly. 37 species in favor. 2 against. 1 abstention. Only the humans voted against the motion. Taman returned to his quarters after the session ended. His hands were shaking now, though he had kept them steady in the chamber. He opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The face of Heijin appeared on the screen. She was in the Military Intelligence Center, beneath Seoul. Surrounded by monitors and data streams, her expression was tight with concern. They voted to ignore us. Yes, Taman confirmed. Velcris is leading a fleet into the zone. 3,000 warships, he said. He wants to make a show of force. Heijin closed her eyes. 3,000 ships, 3,000 crews. How many beings is that? The Draxian vessels carry about 400 crew members each. Taemin said quietly. So approximately 1.2 million people who are about to die because they think we are lying. Can we stop them? No. We have no authority. No military power they would respect. We can only watch. Heijin was silent for a moment. Then she spoke again, her voice harder. I am activating protocol silence. All our monitoring stations around the zone are going active. We will record everything. And then we let them see for themselves what we tried to warn them about. Maybe after, they will listen. Taemin rubbed his temples. I hope some of them survive to learn the lesson. They will not, Heijin said flatly. You know they will not. The zone does not leave survivors. It never has. Taemin thought about the young Draxian soldier he had seen in the corridor outside the council chamber. The soldier had been laughing with his friends, excited about the upcoming mission. That soldier would be dead soon, along with more than 1 million others. Send the final warning, Taemin said. Put it on every frequency. Make it as clear as possible. If they still choose to go, at least history will show we tried. Right. Heijin nodded. Already done. Our message is broadcasting now. Danger. Do not enter. Sector 77 Alpha. This is not a territorial claim. This is not a political statement. This is a warning from people who learned the hard way. Please turn back. They will call it fear, Taemin said. Let them, Heijin replied. We know the truth. In 47 hours, so will they. The communication ended. Taemin sat alone in his quarters, looking out at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there, 3,000 ships were preparing to jump into darkness, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. Commander Velcris stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of all 3,000 warships under his command. They moved through space in perfect formation, a demonstration of military precision that had conquered countless worlds. Status report, Velcris commanded. His second officer, Therek, checked the displays. All ships maintaining formation. We will reach the boundary of the human quarantine zone in 12 minutes. No contacts on sensors. No defensive installations. Nothing but empty space. Velcris smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Just as I expected. The humans were bluffing. There is nothing here. On a distant monitoring station at the edge of the sector, Ji-won sat before a wall of screens. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, untouched. She watched the alien fleet approach. Each ship represented by a glowing dot on her display. Behind her, other technicians worked quietly, their faces grim. They are not slowing down, someone said. No, Ji-won replied. They will not. Run the final diagnostic on all recording equipment. I want every sensor capturing data. This will be the best documentation we have ever gotten. Her hands moved across the controls, activating systems that had been prepared for decades. Earth had placed hundreds of monitoring satellites around the zone, all designed to record and analyze what happened inside. The technology had improved significantly over 2 centuries, but the mission remained the same. Understand the phenomenon that killed anything that entered. Fleet crossing the boundary in 9 minutes, another technician announced. Ji-won opened a communication channel. Captain Minho, are you in position? The response came from a small stealth ship hovering just outside the zone. Minho's voice was calm and professional. Affirmative. All recording systems active. I have visual on the fleet. Remember, do not cross the threshold under any circumstances, Ji-won said. Understood. I have no desire to join them. Back on the Eternal Dominion, Velcris opened a broadcast channel that would reach not just his fleet, but also the human monitoring stations and the Galactic Council. He wanted everyone to witness his moment of triumph. This is Commander Velcris to all vessels and observers. We are about to cross into the sector that humanity claims is dangerous. We do this not out of aggression, but to demonstrate that fear and ignorance should not dictate galactic policy. Watch as we prove that there is nothing to fear. His crew cheered. Throughout the fleet, similar celebrations occurred. This was easy duty. A chance to humiliate the upstart humans and claim whatever they were hiding. Tharek, however, was not celebrating. He stared at his sensor display with growing unease. Commander, I am detecting an anomaly. Anomaly. What kind of anomaly? I am not certain. The sensors show complete silence from the center of the zone. Not low readings. Not background radiation. Nothing. It is as if space itself is absent. Velcris waved a hand dismissively. Sensor malfunction. These are old readings. Once we enter, we will get accurate data. Sir, I recommend we proceed with caution. Perhaps send a probe ship first. Nonsense. We are the Draxian Empire. We do not cower before shadows. The fleet crossed the boundary. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Ships continued on their courses. Crews relaxed. Some even mocked the human warnings over open channels. Jiwan watched her screens intently. The fleet was now 15 minutes inside the zone, moving deeper toward the center where the phenomenon was strongest. Her instruments showed normal readings from the ships themselves, but the background data was wrong. Space around the fleet was beginning to show distortions in quantum measurements. Starting countdown, she said quietly. Based on their current speed and trajectory, estimate 45 minutes until complete exposure. They are still not detecting anything wrong, a technician observed. They would not, Jiwan replied. Our ships did not either. Until it was too late. The phenomenon does not announce itself. It simply erases. Minho's voice came through the communication channel. I am picking up increased radio chatter from the fleet. They sound confident. Some ships are breaking formation to explore different areas. Note all positions, Jiwan instructed. We need to track exactly where each vessel disappears. Time passed slowly. 30 minutes. 40 minutes. The fleet continued deeper, spreading out across the sector. Some ships were now hundreds of kilometers apart, each convinced they were proving humanity wrong. Tharek checked his sensors again. The strange silence he had detected earlier was growing stronger. It was as if reality itself was thinning around them. He opened a private channel to Velcris. Commander, I strongly advise we withdraw. Something is fundamentally wrong with this region of space. Velcris did not even look at him. Your concern is noted and dismissed. We have been here 45 minutes with no issues. The humans lied. We have to in Yuk at exactly 47 minutes and 33 seconds after crossing the boundary. Something changed. On Earth's monitoring station, alarms began to sound. Jiwan's screens flooded with data. We have quantum dissolution beginning. Multiple ships entering the Cascade Zone. Visual confirmation? Someone asked. Minho's voice, now urgent. I am seeing it. Ships at the front of the formation are just gone. Not exploding. Not damaged. One moment they are there. The next moment, empty space. It is spreading backward through the fleet. Tharek screamed a warning on the Eternal Dominion. His sensors had finally registered what was happening. Ships throughout the fleet were simply ceasing to exist, vanishing from all detection. No explosions. No debris. Just absence spreading like a wave through their formation. Velcris grabbed the communications panel. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Full reverse. Maximum speed. But it was too late. The phenomenon moved faster than any ship could run. It did not pursue. It simply was. and anything caught in its effect stopped being. The Eternal Dominion's engines roared to life, trying to escape. Theric watched the sensor display with horror as ship after ship vanished from his screen. Hundreds gone in seconds. Then, thousands. He turned to say something to Velcris. But the commander was gone. Not killed. Not injured. Simply no longer existing. Theric looked down at his own hands and saw them beginning to fade. His last thought was a simple one. The humans had tried to warn them. On the monitoring station, Jiwan watched as 3,000 signals disappeared from her screens. The entire process took 6 minutes and 12 seconds, from start to finish. When it was over, the sector was empty again. No ships. No life. No debris. Just the silent, deadly anomaly that humanity had learned to fear 200 years ago. "Record complete," she said, her voice hollow. "Transmit all data to Earth Command and the Galactic Council." Minho's voice was shaky. "I am returning to base. I need to not look at this anymore." "Understood. Come home." Jiwan sat back in her chair. More than 1,000,000 people had just died. And humanity had known exactly what would happen because they had tried to learn instead of assuming they knew better. Now the galaxy would have to face an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the quiet ones knew things worth listening to. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 6 hours after the fleet disappeared. The grand chamber that had been filled with laughter and mockery during the previous meeting now thrummed with panic and rage. Representatives shouted over each other, their translation devices struggling to keep up with multiple species demanding answers simultaneously. Taman stood at the human podium again, but this time every eye in the chamber was fixed on him. The atmosphere had changed completely. He was no longer the insignificant representative of a backward species. Now he was the target of fear and anger from beings who had just lost thousands of their people. "Murderers!" screamed a Draxian delegate. "You killed our fleet! You destroyed 3,000 ships!" Taman kept his voice level and calm. "We killed no one. We warned you. You chose not to listen. You used a weapon," another voice shouted. "Some kind of hidden technology." "We used nothing," Taman replied. "We simply knew what was there because we learned the hard way. 200 years ago, we lost ships to the same phenomenon. We spent generations studying it from a safe distance. We tried to warn you. You called us liars." The council chamber erupted again. Through the chaos, a voice cut clearly. It belonged to the Corvan delegate who had mocked Earth before. "Show us proof. Show us what destroyed our people." Taman nodded to his display system. Holographic images filled the center of the chamber. Sensor readings, historical records, videos from Earth's early encounters with the anomaly. The data was dense and detailed, representing 2 centuries of careful observation. "This is what we know," Taman began. 203 years ago, Earth launched its first faster-than-light research vessels. 2 of those ships entered Sector 7 Alpha. They vanished without trace. No distress calls. No debris. We spent the next 50 years trying to understand what happened. The displays showed mathematical models and quantum field readings. We lost 5 more research vessels during that period. Each time, we learned a little more. Each time, good people died to give us that knowledge. Eventually, we understood enough to know one absolute truth. Stay away. A delegate from the Korthan species spoke up, his voice trembling. "What is it? What destroyed them?" Hejin's face appeared on the displays, transmitted from Earth. She had arrived at the council station to provide technical testimony. "What we know is that this region of space contains a fundamental breakdown in the structure of reality itself. Specifically, it affects the quantum field that allows faster-than-light travel to work." She pulled up new images, showing the monitoring data from the fleet's destruction. When a ship with an active or recently active FTL drive enters the affected zone, something happens to it at the quantum level. The ship does not explode. It does not get crushed. It simply stops existing across all possible timelines. Every atom, every particle, every trace of information gets unraveled from reality. The chamber fell silent. Even the angriest delegates seemed stunned by the technical explanation. "You are saying they were erased from existence?" someone asked quietly. "Yes," Heijin confirmed. "Not killed. Erased. There is a difference. Their past still happened, but their present and future were removed from the universe." Prime Minister Sora appeared on another display, speaking from Earth's government center. She was an older woman, with gray hair and tired eyes. "We have carried this knowledge for 200 years. We have guarded this region of space, marking it clearly and warning anyone who would listen. We did this, not to claim territory or hide resources, but because we knew what would happen if we did not." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We lost 7 ships and 463 people learning about this danger. We paid that price so others would not have to. We established monitoring stations to study the phenomenon. We hoped that someday we might understand it well enough to reverse it or contain it. Until then, our only option was to warn others and pray they would listen." A Draxian delegate stood, his scales dull with grief. "You could have explained this before. You could have made us understand." Taemin shook his head sadly. "We tried. I presented our data at the previous session. I showed our historical records. I explained that we had lost ships. Commander Velkris called it a ghost story. Others accused us of hoarding resources. No one examined our evidence. No one asked questions. You simply dismissed us as primitive liars." The chamber fell silent again. The truth of his words was uncomfortable but undeniable. Kyung-ho appeared on the displays next. He was the head of Earth's Special Projects Division, a thin man with sharp eyes. "We have been studying this phenomenon for generations. We have developed specialized sensors that can detect the quantum instabilities that signal its presence. We have mapped the boundaries with precision. We have observed it growing slowly, expanding by approximately 3 micrometers per year." That statement caused another eruption of panic. "Growing? It is getting larger?" "Yes," Kyung-ho confirmed. "Which is why we have been so insistent about keeping ships away. Every faster-than-light drive that enters the zone seems to feed energy into the anomaly. The more ships that get erased, the faster it might grow." A representative from the Velkar assembly spoke, his voice heavy with resignation. "So, what you are telling us is that humanity has been protecting the galaxy from a threat we did not even know existed, and when you tried to warn us, we mocked you and sent our people to die." "Yes," Sora said simply. "That is exactly what happened." The weight of guilt settled over the chamber. Beings who had laughed at humanity days ago now sat in stunned silence, confronting the reality that their arrogance had killed their own people. "What happens now?" the Korvan delegate asked quietly. Heijin pulled up new images, showing dozens of other locations scattered across the galaxy. Each was marked with the same warning symbols that had surrounded Sector 7-7 Alpha. These are other anomalies we have detected over the past 2 centuries. None are as large or as active as the one in Sector 7-7 Alpha, but they are growing too. Slowly, but measurably, the chamber filled with horrified whispers. "We have been mapping these dangers while the rest of the galaxy focused on expansion and conquest," Heijin continued. "We did not do this to gain power. We did this because someone needed to, and no one else was paying attention." Taemin spoke again, his voice carrying a weight it had not held before. "Earth does not want to rule anyone. We do not seek dominance or revenge. But we will not allow ignorance to endanger everyone. Not anymore. We propose a new council structure, one where humanity has authority over spatial safety matters. Not because we want power, but because we have proven we will do the work that others will not." The vote that followed was very different from the previous session. This time, 39 species voted in favor. Only 1 abstained. No one voted against. As the session ended, Taman remained at his podium, watching the other delegates file out. Many avoided his eyes, unable to face the shame of what their dismissal had cost. A few approached to offer quiet apologies, which Taman accepted with grace. Heijin contacted him privately. "We won, but it does not feel like winning." "No." Taman agreed. "Over 1 million people died to teach this lesson. That is not a victory. That is a tragedy we tried to prevent. At least now they will listen." "Yes," Taman said, looking out at the stars. "Now they will listen." Captain Minho's stealth ship hovered at the edge of the Forbidden Zone, closer than any non-human vessel dared to approach. Behind him, at a respectful distance, a dozen observation ships from various species maintained position. They were there to witness the investigation, but none had the courage to move closer. They had seen what happened to those who ignored the warnings. "Beginning sensor sweep," Minho announced over the open communication channel. His ship, the Silent Observer, had been specifically designed for this kind of work. Every instrument was calibrated to detect the subtle quantum distortions that signaled the anomaly's presence. On one of the distant observation ships, a Korthan scientist named Velric watched his displays with intense focus. The human ship is holding steady at exactly 3 kilometers from the threshold. How do they know where the safe limit is? His colleague checked the readings. They have been mapping this zone for 200 years. Every meter has been measured and documented. They know this anomaly better than we know our own home systems. Minho's voice came through the speakers again. "Deploying probe. 17. This one is equipped with quantum field recorders and will attempt to map the exact moment of dissolution." A small probe detached from the Silent Observer and moved slowly toward the zone. Every sensor on every ship tracked its progress. The probe crossed the threshold and continued inward, transmitting data continuously. "Probe is at 1 kilometer depth," Minho reported. "Quantum instability readings are within expected parameters. 2 kilometers. Instabilities increasing exponentially. 3 kilometers. Field coherence beginning to break down. The data streaming from the probe became increasingly chaotic. Then, exactly 3 kilometers and 47 meters inside the zone, the transmission stopped. Not gradually, but instantly. One moment there was data, the next moment nothing. "Probe has ceased to exist," Minho confirmed. "All data, from the final milliseconds, has been recorded and is being transmitted to the research teams." On the monitoring station, Ji-won and her team processed the incoming data. Yuna, a xenophysicist who had spent her entire career studying the anomaly, pulled up the readings on a large display. "Look at this. In the final microseconds, we can see the quantum signature of the probe literally unraveling. Each particle stops being in a defined state and spreads across infinite probability. Then, even the probability ceases." She turned to address the alien observers via video link. "What you witnessed is not destruction in any conventional sense. Your ships did not get blown apart or crushed. They simply stopped being possible. The mathematics are clear. Once an object crosses that threshold, it becomes quantum noise. Then, not even that." Admiral Do-hyun joined the video conference from Earth's Defense Force headquarters. He was an older man with gray temples and a no-nonsense demeanor. "We have deployed 173 probes into that zone over the past 2 centuries. We lost all of them. But each one gave us more data, more understanding. This is how we learned to respect what we found." Velric spoke up from his observation ship. "But why does it happen? What caused this?" Yuna pulled up theoretical models. "Our best hypothesis is that an ancient civilization attempted to manipulate space-time in a way that fundamentally damaged it. Perhaps they were trying to create stable wormholes or manipulate quantum fields for faster-than-light travel. Something went wrong, very wrong." She showed simulations of how the anomaly might have formed. "Imagine space-time as a fabric. Now imagine someone tried to fold it in ways it was not meant to fold. They might have succeeded briefly, but then the fabric tore. What we are seeing is not a wound that healed. It is a wound that is still open, still bleeding into reality. Minho deployed another probe. This one, equipped with different sensors, attempting gravitational mapping of the affected region. The probe lasted slightly longer, reaching 4 kilometers before vanishing. But the data it sent back was revealing. Yuna studied it with growing concern. The gravitational readings are wrong. Space-time curvature inside the zone does not follow normal physics. It is as if multiple contradictory states of gravity exist simultaneously. Jiwan pulled up long-term monitoring data. I need to show you all something else. This chart represents the growth rate of the anomaly over 200 years. The graph appeared on all screens. Notice that the growth rate was steady for the first 150 years. Then, about 50 years ago, it began accelerating. And look at this spike. The graph showed a dramatic increase right after the fleet disappeared. 3,000 faster-than-light drives, all dissolving at once, pumped enormous amounts of exotic energy into the anomaly, Yuna explained. We feared this might happen. Each ship that enters does not just get erased. It feeds the phenomenon. Horror spread through the alien observers. They had not just lost their people. They had made the threat worse. Admiral Do-hyun continued with grim news. Project Sentinel has been Earth's long-term response to this crisis. For 200 years, we have been developing technology that might someday allow us to contain or reverse the damage. We are not there yet. Our current estimates suggest we need at least another century of research, possibly longer. He pulled up images of massive research facilities on Earth and throughout the solar system. We have diverted significant resources to this project. Resources we could have used for colonization or military expansion. We chose to invest in solving a problem that no one else even believed existed. A Draxian observer, one of the few survivors from Velcris's military command, spoke up. His voice was filled with shame. Why? Why did you spend so much on a problem that did not directly threaten you? Your planet is far from this zone, Minho answered from his ship. Because it is growing. Slowly, but growing. If we do nothing, in a few thousand years it might reach inhabited systems. And more importantly, we found it. That made it our responsibility. Yuna added more uncomfortable information. We have detected 47 other anomalies scattered across the galaxy. Most are much smaller than this one, but they all show the same characteristics. Some are in remote areas, like this one. Others are dangerously close to populated regions. She highlighted several locations on a galactic map. This one is only 20 light-years from the Corthan home system. This one is in a major trade route that will be established in about 50 years if expansion continues at current rates. We have been quietly marking these zones and trying to warn governments. But until now, no one listened. Admiral Do-hyun made a formal announcement. Earth is proposing the formation of a joint defense initiative, not against external enemies, but against these threats that endanger all species equally. We will share our 2 centuries of research data. We will train scientists from all species to detect and monitor these anomalies. And we will combine our resources to find solutions. The proposal was met with immediate acceptance. The alien observers had seen enough. They understood now that humanity had been fighting a battle to protect everyone. A battle they fought alone, because no one else took them seriously. Seojun, a young scientist on Jiwon's team, spoke up during a research briefing. I have been analyzing the quantum signatures from the latest probe data. I think I see a pattern. If we could generate a counterfield with the exact opposite quantum signature, we might be able to stabilize the damaged spacetime. Yuna looked at his calculations with interest. This would require energy levels far beyond what any single species can generate. Yes, Seojun agreed. But if we combine Earth's theoretical knowledge With alien reactor technology and resource networks, it might be possible. Not today, maybe not for decades, but possible. For the first time since the fleet disappeared, there was a sense of hope mixed with the tragedy. Humanity had guarded a terrible secret and paid a terrible price to understand it. Now, finally, they would not have to carry that burden alone. 6 months had passed since the fleet disappeared. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same, but everything about it felt different. The human podium was no longer tucked away in a corner. It now stood equal to all others, with a prominent position that reflected Earth's new status. Taman stood before the assembled representatives once again. This time, when he spoke, the chamber fell silent immediately. Every species present had learned the cost of not listening to humanity. The Galactic Council recognizes Earth's permanent seat and authority on all matters related to spatial anomalies and navigation safety, the Council speaker announced formally. This authority includes veto power over any exploration or military activity in regions identified as high risk. The vote had been unanimous. No one argued anymore. The evidence was too clear. The cost too high. Prime Minister Sora addressed the Council via holographic projection. Earth accepts this responsibility. But we want to be clear about our intentions. We do not seek to control anyone. We do not want an empire. We simply want to ensure that what happened to Velcris's fleet never happens again. Not to anyone. She gestured to data displays showing the new initiatives that had been launched. Over the past 6 months, we have shared 200 years of research with all member species. We have established joint monitoring stations around known anomalies. We have trained 3,000 scientists from 40 different species in detection and safety protocols. Hagen appeared on another display, speaking from the new Joint Defense Initiative headquarters that had been constructed on Earth's moon. We have begun comprehensive mapping of all known spatial anomalies. Teams of mixed species are working together, combining human experience with alien technology and resources. Progress has been faster in these 6 months than in the previous 50 years. The displays showed images of combined fleets patrolling danger zones, research vessels from multiple species working side by side, and data centers processing information from across the galaxy. We have confirmed that the main anomaly in Sector 77 Alpha has stabilized. Hagen continued. The growth rate has returned to previous levels. We believe this is because we have prevented any additional ships from entering. This confirms our theory that FTL drives feed energy into these zones. Jiwan's research team had made another important discovery. She presented their findings to the Council. We have developed early warning sensors that can detect the formation of new anomalies. This technology combines Earth's quantum field expertise with Corthan gravitational mapping and Velkar energy detection systems. Working together, we created something none of us could have built alone. The first practical result of cooperation was already in use. Dozens of these sensors had been deployed in high-traffic regions of space, creating a safety network that protected all species. Kyung-ho provided an update on Project Sentinel. With combined resources, our research has accelerated dramatically. We now have a theoretical framework for containing anomalies. Implementation is still decades away, but we have made more progress in 6 months of cooperation than in 200 years of working alone. The young scientist Seojun presented his breakthrough theory to the Council. We believe the anomalies can be reversed, not destroyed. The process would require enormous energy and precise quantum manipulation, but it is possible. We are calling it the recovery protocol. He showed simulations of how it might work. Imagine the anomaly as a knot in space-time. We cannot cut the knot without making things worse, but we might be able to carefully untie it, restoring normal space-time structure. This would not be quick. For the main anomaly in Sector 77 Alpha, we estimate a recovery process lasting between 30 and 50 years. The Council members listened with hope. Not immediate solutions, but real possibilities for the future. Admiral Do-hyun announced the formation of the Combined Patrol Fleet. Ships from 15 different species now work together to monitor and protect dangerous regions. This is not a military force for conquest. It is a protection force for everyone. Minho had been promoted to captain of the first joint research vessel, a ship built with technology from 7 different species. The Pathfinder will be conducting a detailed investigation of the anomaly near the Korthan home system, he announced. Our crew includes humans, Korthans, Velkars, and Draxians. We will map this threat and develop containment strategies. The mention of Draxians brought solemn nods around the chamber. The Draxian Empire had lost the most in the disaster, but they had also been among the most committed to the new cooperative approach. They understood better than anyone the cost of arrogance. A Draxian representative stood to speak. We remember Commander Velkris and the 1.2 million people who died because we refused to listen. We have erected a memorial on our homeworld. It bears a simple inscription. Pride killed them. Humility will honor them. We will never forget this lesson. Sora spoke again, her voice carrying the weight of experience. Humanity spent 200 years learning that some problems are too big for any one species to solve alone. We learned humility through loss. We learned patience through necessity. We learned that sometimes the greatest strength is admitting what you do not know. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. The galaxy called us primitive. They said we had nothing to offer, but we had something that technology cannot create. The wisdom that comes from being small in a vast universe. We knew we did not have all the answers. So we watched, we learned, and we tried to warn others. Taman added his own thoughts. We are not better than anyone else. We just happened to encounter these threats first. If the Draxians or Korthans had found these anomalies before us, they would have done the same work. Any species with compassion would have tried to protect others. We just want to make sure that protection reaches everyone. The council session ended with the formal signing of the Galactic Safety Accord, a treaty that established protocols for handling spatial anomalies and other existential threats. Every species present signed it, pledging cooperation over competition when it came to matters of universal safety. As representatives filed out, many stopped to speak with Taman personally. Apologies, gratitude, and promises of cooperation flowed freely. The condescension and mockery from 6 months ago had been replaced with genuine respect. Later, Taman stood with Heijin on an observation deck overlooking Earth. The planet turned slowly beneath them, blue and green and beautiful. Do you think we changed anything? Heijin asked quietly. Yes, Taman replied. We showed them that quiet competence matters more than loud confidence. That patience is more valuable than aggression. That protecting others, even when they mock you for it, is the right thing to do. He watched ships from multiple species moving through space around them, working together in ways that had been unthinkable a year ago. Velkris thought we were primitive. He thought we had nothing to teach. He was wrong. We taught them the most important lesson, that survival requires listening to those who have already paid the price of learning. The Pathfinder launched from a nearby station, beginning its journey to investigate another anomaly. Its mixed crew represented a new era, one where species worked together not because they had to, but because they understood the cost of not doing so. We paid a terrible price for this respect, Heijin said. We did, Taman agreed. But we would have paid a worse price if we had stayed silent. At least now, when we speak, the galaxy listens. And maybe, just maybe, that will save the next 1,000,000 lives, instead of costing them. They stood in silence, watching the ships move through space. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not with conquest or superior technology, but with something more fundamental. The wisdom to recognize danger, the patience to understand it, and the courage to protect others from it, even when those others refused to believe. The galaxy had overlooked Earth's warning until their fleet disappeared in seconds. Now they would never overlook humanity again, not because humans had proven themselves through violence, but because they had proven themselves through 200 years of quiet, unglamorous, absolutely essential work that no one else had been willing to do. That, Taman thought, was the real strength of humanity. Not that they could destroy, but that they would protect. Not that they could conquer, but that they would guard. Not that they had all the answers, but that they had learned enough to know when to say, "Stop, there is danger here." And finally, after 200 years of being dismissed, the galaxy had learned to listen.